presented. I'm Declan, one of the professors in computer science here in the School of Computer Science in Trinity College Dublin, and I'm leading up the transparent digital governance team from a strand point of view. And as you'll see later on, the strands are basically constructed to have many academics involved, and so in fact we have a leadership team which I'll also introduce you to as we go through. Really what this strand is all about is trying to ensure fair and trustworthy AI systems that will achieve transparency, accountability at multiple levels: the algorithmic level, the individual level, and the enterprise and societal level. The research that we're undertaking in this strand is against background where there is growing recognition globally for the need for a common understanding of the problems with AI, and there's an urgent need for a robust, ethically grounded and trustworthy AI so as to avoid negative impacts on human activity. These concerns not being expressed are not only being expressed by major groups such as the EU and the United Nations, but also by major technological companies like IBM as such, as well as domain-specific organizations and societal stakeholders as well. So what do we mean by digital governance? In our mind, digital governance is a multifaceted challenge. It requires the integration of multidisciplinary approaches, frameworks, and models, spanning data management, information systems, business studies, social science, law, privacy, and ethics. And since digital governance has both individual and societal dimensions, it also refers to the, as I say, the individual's own ethical and moral responsibility in relation to the data they capture, create, and use. As we've seen in our research into the governance of digital content technology, the governance of AI for digital engagement must be grounded in appropriate governance of data as well. So we're building upon the groundbreaking research that's been undertaken in ADAPT previously in terms of data value, data quality, data protection, data ethics, and data integration through collaborations with the disciplines that I've talked about earlier on. But we're also expanding that by bringing in, as I say, expertise from multiple other disciplines, not just technology. So what we are doing, we're exploring the issues of organizational risk, human autonomy, and stakeholder responsibility, their concerns and their interests, in order to develop novel, open, semantic models and appropriate multi-stakeholder governance practices. And we intend to validate these models and practices across complex e-health and fintech data domains, as we will develop a common data governance framework that we're hoping in essence to validate our research by trying to apply it in these complex domains. What are the state-of-the-art gaps we are targeting in this strand? In the first area, it's data value and risk. A key challenge in current data governance research is that we need more transparent models that balance the economic value creation with risk exposure to the individual, the organization, and society. At the moment, many businesses, you currently have siloed audit logs used mainly for compliance checking, if you like, with the approach to risk management being mainly instant-based, reactive, and with no accumulation of knowledge for forward planning. There's also risk in relation to the individual's privacy being compromised inadvertently, and a need for modes of governance of data which are more transparent to the individual consumer or citizen. In parallel, there's a lack of ways to effectively make models of value and risk visible for data sets in ways that are suitable for individuals, organizations, and societal stakeholders. So the research that's being built upon here and going forward into this strand is in the area of behavioral analytics, event detection, and modeling data value. And this provides a good basis for us to advance state-of-the-art machine processable knowledge models for value and risk, which is currently sorely missing in these domains. These risk and value models and emerging governance practices will also provide opportunities to involve the public directly in our engaged research agenda as well. So there's a very good EP aspect to this as well. Of course, in terms of data governance, we must also be able to engage with relevant stakeholders, right? And there are several gaps in the state of the art in the area of stakeholder engagement. We've identified as part of our research agenda 2 particular avenues that we want to pursue. The first being the parameters for modeling responsibility and trust. That currently is fragmented across several areas. You'll hear people talk about bias, discrimination, transparency, and they also operate at multiple levels. And so there's a gap in having a sort of holistic view upon those different aspects. The second gap arises is the lack of consensus on how to share responsibility across stakeholders from different cultural, moral, and legal backgrounds. And yes, we need that as most organizations, society is transnational and multicultural, and being able to enable and empower consensus making therefore requires new methods and approaches in this area. And so this area we essentially call as the autonomy and responsibility as a sort of a challenge heading that we give this research area. So potential approaches, techniques, and tools will need to derive from multiple disciplines, but specifically draw upon our work in responsible research and innovation, open data, privacy techniques, care ethics, and citizens engagement with science. The third challenge that this strand is targeting is the whole area of heterogeneity and interoperability. So achieving the vision of responsible digital engagement is only really possible if the multiple data sources involved can be integrated efficiently, with measurable quality, and with contextualized attention to ethical and privacy concerns. This requires more explicit data governance of these aspects to take place. It also requires us to address the lack of data integration approaches that does take into account the context of integration. For example, when a data integrator wants to integrate 2 data sets, can we enable the analysis of the context of the integration in order to flag potential ethical or privacy issues? In addition, to enable us to take accountable of determinable quality, we also need to address the lack of interoperable metadata for data quality metrics and understand what data quality means in the context of AI and machine learning. Here too, we're well placed to build on upon previous research in data integration and metadata quality metrics. So bringing into focus these gaps in the state of the art and our vision of data governance that is integrated and accountable, this strand will focus on developing data governance models based on best practice in multi-stakeholder governance. The models will be expressed as structured knowledge that uses explicit graph-based knowledge techniques based on open data standards to model different aspects of AI data governance, namely data value, quality, integration, protection, within an ethically appropriate use context. Developing best practice in multi-stakeholder governance involves research directly with key stakeholders at all phases in the research. And of course, this also gives us great opportunities in engaging the public in our research as well through EP activities. So how do we structure this research agenda? You've got a hint from the previous 3 slides, but essentially we've tried to decompose the problem into 3 different challenges. One around autonomy and responsibility, the second around heterogeneity and interoperability, and the third one we call value and risk. The concentric circles here shows the research topics needed to address each of these research challenge areas in order to achieve the vision of an integrated and accountable digital governance. So the value and risk challenge will develop practices and contribute to a governance framework to reduce the risk of bias, discrimination, and inadvertent misuse of data by AI, while also extracting value through predictive behavioral and risk analysis. The autonomy and research responsibility research challenge will develop best practice in multi-stakeholder governance to ensure responsibility, fairness, transparency, and autonomy. Research topics here, for example, include data ethics, data protection, transparent and explainable AI, etc. And the Heterogeneity and interoperability challenge will develop methods and standards to support transparent, context-aware, quality-controlled, and policy-compliant data integration. So the research program addressing the three challenges, so this looks like solos, but they're not really. We're all trying to contribute to a common multidisciplinary research strategy that will deliver a data governance framework for AI-driven personal digital engagement. And as mentioned earlier, we're going to try and take this framework and apply it within concrete domains such as healthcare and fintech.